All right, get this. We're diving deep into real vampires today.
Oh, wow.
Not the sparkly kind,
No.
but the ones that have haunted humanity for centuries,
Right.
We're going to be exploring a book called The Real Vampires: History, Lore, and Occult Connections,
Right.
to uncover, the chilling origins of vampire myths and try to understand why people across cultures, took them so seriously. I'm
Right.
talking ancient Mesopotamia, Vatican archives, all of that.
Yeah, it's so fascinating how this concept of a vampire, it isn't just, a spooky campfire story.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenon that's been investigated,
Oh.
debated, feared by scholars and officials throughout history.
Right.
It's not just, like a fun, spooky story.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah.
If there really are real vampires, what are they exactly?
Right.
Are we talking about undead creatures or
Yeah.
something else entirely?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And honestly, the answer might be more complex than you think.
Oh, really?
It could involve secret traditions, blood magic, and a hidden lineage of individuals seeking power and immortality.
Whoa, hold on. A hidden lineage of vampires.
Yeah,
Now you've really got my attention.
we'll get to all that. But first,
Okay.
we kind of have to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
We need to understand where these beliefs originated and why they resonated so deeply across cultures.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
What's the earliest known vampire-like creature?
We can trace it all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia,
Wow. Oh,
to where we find the Amu.
the emu.
It's described as a vengeful spirit
Okay.
that could drain blood and life force.
So we're talking about more than just a ghost here.
Right.
This thing was getting physical.
It even manifested physically
Really?
to attack its victims.
Wow.
And the Amu isn't an isolated case.
Oh, okay.
If we jump ahead to ancient Greece, we find creatures like the Empusa, Lamia, and Striges,
Right.
all associated with blood and preying on the living.
Okay, so we're seeing, similar creatures in different cultures already.
Yeah.
Is there something about these ancient beliefs that speaks to, a universal human fear?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
The idea of something stealing your life force, your very essence,
Yeah.
is a primal fear that resonates across cultures.
Right.
And it's not just about blood either,
Okay.
The ancient Chinese believed in the Changshi.
The what?
The Changshi, a hopping vampire
Oh, wow.
that could drain breath, life force,
Oh,
or yang essence.
okay.
It's a broader understanding of energy theft.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
So even in ancient times,
Yeah.
people were grappling with the idea that something unseen could drain our vitality,
Mm.
and they weren't just passively accepting it.
Yeah, right.
They were actively trying to fight back.
Exactly.
Wow.
The Assyrians had specific exorcisms
Oh, wow.
and rituals to deal with the Amus, recognizing them as a serious threat.
Right.
And the Ambo tribe in Africa would mutilate corpses, severing limbs and cutting out
Oh,
tongues
my God.
to prevent them from rising again.
Wow. So these practices show a real fear of the undead
Yeah.
and a desperate desire to control them.
To control them, yeah.
So what you're saying is these vampire myths,
Oh.
they weren't just stories. They were deeply ingrained in these
Right.
cultures,
Yeah.
shaping their beliefs and practices.
It's like they were trying to explain something they didn't have the words for yet.
Right, exactly.
And the global nature of these myths is astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
In Japan,
Yeah.
we have the Nukakubi,
The Nukakubi.
whose head detaches from its body at night to hunt.
Oh, my.
Malaysia has the Langsur,
Okay.
with a hole in the back of her neck,
Oh, wow.
for feeding on children.
Oh, jeez.
And the Philippines has the Manananggal,
Right.
which splits its body in half,
Hold on. Back up a second. Yeah.
splitting bodies and detaching heads.
Yeah.
Are we talking about early attempts to describe
Hmm.
astral projection or out-of-body experiences?
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe these cultures were trying to express something they witnessed but couldn't fully comprehend.
It's almost like we're looking at
Yeah.
pieces of a puzzle scattered across the globe.
Right.
Each culture has its own unique version of the vampire myth,
Mm-hmm.
but there are these recurring themes
Right.
that connects them all.
Yeah.
Blood, life force, the fear of the undead.
It's a pattern that's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
And when we focus on Europe,
Okay.
these themes become even more pronounced.
Really?
The European vampire takes on a more physical nature,
Okay.
inhabiting corpses and rising from graves.
Right, the decaying corpses.
Yeah.
The hunger for blood. The aversion to sunlight.
It's like the ultimate nightmare.
Yeah.
Death not bringing peace.
But a horrifying form of life.
And this blending of the physical and supernatural
is precisely what made European vampires so terrifying. It tapped into people's deepest anxieties.
Yeah.
About death, disease, and the unknown.
So how did the term vampire come to be associated with these creatures?
The word has roots in various Slavic languages.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that many early European accounts didn't even use the word vampire.
Oh, really?
They used terms like revenant or restless spirit.
So even without a specific label, these creatures were causing enough chaos to attract some serious attention. And from what I've heard, the church wasn't exactly ignoring the problem.
You're right. By the 12th and 13th centuries, vampire fears were so widespread that they caught the attention of the church. In 1215, the Fourth Lateran Council, convened by Pope Innocent III, formally addressed these spiritual abnormalities.
Wait a minute. They had official church meetings about vampires. Seriously?
Yes. And they didn't take it lightly.
Really?
The council established clear distinctions between demonic possession and other spiritual disturbances, including those linked to the restless dead. They even linked vampirism to sin and excommunication.
So the church was acknowledging that these creatures were a real threat.
Yes.
They weren't just dismissing them as folklore.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And their influence extended to burial practices.
Really?
Improper rites or unholy deaths were seen as potential causes of vampirism.
So it's like they were trying to create like a spiritual safety net.
Exactly.
Ensuring the dead stayed where they belonged.
Where they belong.
It's almost like they were fighting like a spiritual war against these creatures.
Spiritual war, yeah.
And it wasn't just limited to local priests or villages.
No.
Even the Pope got involved, right?
Yes. In the 18th century, Pope Benedict XIV personally reviewed vampire cases.
Wow, even the Pope was on vampire watch.
As part of a broader theological debate.
It really highlights how widespread the fear of vampires was in Europe.
In Europe, yeah.
But it wasn't just the church that was paying attention. Universities were getting involved as well.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
Academic interest in vampires surged.
Really?
With universities tackling the subject.
Wow.
With a seriousness that might surprise you.
They were writing dissertations about vampires.
Yes.
That's amazing. What were they trying to figure out?
Well, scholars like Christian Frederick Garman and Michael Ranft debated the nature of vampires, their origins and how they fit within theological and natural frameworks. A key point of contention was distinguishing vampires from demons.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty important distinction. Yeah.
If you're trying to figure out how to deal with them.
Right.
So we have the church grappling with the spiritual implications. Universities trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
And all the while, everyday people were experiencing these terrifying encounters firsthand.
And those encounters are where things get really chilling. The historical record is filled with documented cases of vampire encounters. That terrified entire communities and forced authorities to confront something they couldn't explain.
You know, all this talk about ancient myths and scholarly debates is fascinating. But I'm ready for something a little more visceral.
All right.
Could you give us a specific case? Something that really captures the terror of these times.
Let's go back to 12th century England. William of Newburgh, a respected historian, documented several cases of restless corpses terrorizing communities. Oh my gosh.
In one account, a man known for his sinful life was said to rise from his grave, spreading fear and disease.
Wait, so this dead guy was like a walking plague?
That's what people believed.
Oh.
Witnesses claimed they saw him visiting his wife
Oh, wow.
Nearly crushing her with his weight.
Wow.
He even haunted his brothers
Jeez.
when they tried to intervene.
So how did they deal with this walking, talking plague?
When they finally exhumed his grave, his body was bloated, lifelike, and full of blood.
Wow.
They saw these as sure signs of vampirism.
Right.
To stop him, they did what people believed would work.
Okay.
They burned the corpse.
Oh, my.
According to William of Newburgh.
Okay.
That put an end to the disturbances.
A fiery end for a fiery corpse.
Yeah.
So are you saying that these historical accounts suggest that people were genuinely encountering something we can't fully explain?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sheer number of cases, the consistency of reports across time and cultures, and the involvement of not just villagers, but also officials and scholars, suggests it might be more than just superstition.
Okay, now I'm really hooked.
Okay.
What other chilling cases you share that might shed light on this mystery?
Let's fast forward to 17th century Croatia.
Okay.
There's the documented case of Grando, a villager who died in 1656, but was said to rise from his grave 16 years later.
16 years is a long time to wait for a nocturnal haunting.
Right.
What happened next?
According to reports,
Okay.
whenever Grando knocked on a door, someone in that household would fall ill and die within days.
Wow.
His widow even claimed that he visited her at night.
Oh, wow.
With this eerie smile on his face.
Okay, that's creepy on a whole new level.
Yeah.
A smiling corpse. What did the villagers do?
Fearing for their lives, they exhumed his grave.
Right.
And get this, they found his body surprisingly well preserved.
Oh my gosh.
With that same sinister grin frozen on his face.
So even in death, he was still smiling.
Yeah.
It sends chills down my spine.
It's a chilling detail.
Just thinking about it.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
They tried to drive a hawthorn stake through his heart.
Okay.
But it bounced off his chest.
No.
Finally, they decapitated the body.
Oh, my goodness.
And witnesses claimed that it let out a horrifying scream.
A screaming.
As blood poured from the wound.
Decapitated corpse.
Yeah.
That's the stuff of nightmares.
And it's not just stories either.
Right.
Remember, these accounts were often documented by officials or respected figures, lending them a degree of credibility.
Yeah.
They weren't just whispers or rumors. They were written down, investigated, and sometimes even published.
So we have two cases.
Yeah.
In two completely different parts of Europe, centuries apart.
Right.
And yet they share some striking similarities.
Exactly.
Restless corpses, unexplained deaths, and desperate attempts to stop these creatures using methods that, frankly, sound like they came straight out of a horror movie.
Exactly. And these cases weren't limited to small villages or remote regions.
Right.
In 1725, in the village of Kisilova, Serbia, a series of sudden deaths occurred after the death of a man named Peter Blagojevich.
Right.
People claimed that he visited them at night.
Wow.
Throttling them in their sleep.
Oh, my goodness.
An imperial official.
Now we're talking government involvement.
Right.
This must have been a big deal if they sent an official representative.
It was. They exhumed Blagojevich's body and found it well preserved with blood at the mouth.
Wow.
They staked and burned the body.
Oh, my.
And to really drive the point home, Fumel published an official report.
Wow. So this wasn't just a local legend.
Right.
The government was actively investigating and documenting these occurrences.
Yeah.
Even publicizing them.
These reports, especially the ones that involved officials or respected figures, spread the fear of vampires even further.
Yeah.
It was no longer just folklore.
Right.
It was entering the realm of official record.
Okay, this is getting really intriguing.
Yeah.
We've gone from ancient myths to documented accounts of suspected vampirism.
Yeah.
Investigated by government officials.
Investigated, yeah.
What other stories lurk in the shadows of history?
Let's travel to the Greek island of Mykonos.
Oh.
In 1701, the renowned French botanist Joseph Pitton de Tournefort had a chilling encounter with a Vrykolakas.
A Vrykolakas.
A Greek vampire.
So not just villagers and officials, but even a respected scientist was encountering these creatures.
Yes.
What happened?
It started with the mysterious death of a local peasant. Days later, his ghost was sighted at night. Oh, wow. Causing minor disturbances.
Right.
But things escalated quickly. The townspeople, fearing of Vrykolakas, exhumed the body
Right.
removed, and burned the heart.
That sounds pretty drastic.
Yeah, did it work?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh,
The disturbances continued, becoming more aggressive.
Okay.
Finally, in desperation,
Yeah.
they cremated the entire body.
Oh, wow.
Only then did the haunting cease.
Wow. So even removing the heart wasn't enough. They had to completely destroy the body to stop the Vakalakas.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder of how real the fear of these creatures was.
And the methods used to combat them were often just as terrifying.
Right.
Take, for example, the case of Arnold Pal.
Arnold Pal.
A former soldier from the village of Menvea in Serbia.
Okay.
In 1727, shortly after his death, villagers started dying.
Oh, no.
Claiming Pal had visited them at night.
Oh, God.
They exhumed his body, staked his heart, and burned it. So they went for the full vampire slaying treatment.
Yeah.
Did it work this time?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But 5 years later, another wave of deaths hit the village.
Oh, gosh.
People were terrified, believing that Peel was back.
So even staking and burning wasn't a foolproof solution.
Right.
This is getting scarier by the minute.
This time, Austrian military officials got involved.
Wow.
Documenting the events in detailed reports.
So now it's even more official than just, like, the local government.
They exhumed the bodies
Right.
of those who had recently died, and to their horror, they found some of them uncorrupted,
Oh, my gosh.
with fresh blood around their mouths.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
So even the authorities were finding evidence that supported the villagers' claims.
And these reports circulated widely,
Right.
solidifying the belief in vampires in the minds of many.
So we've had England, Croatia, Greece, Serbia. Where to next in our European vampire tour?
Let's head to Bristol, England.
Okay.
In 1761, the Lamb Inn
The Lamb Inn.
became the center of a strange haunting
Okay.
that doesn't quite fit the typical vampire mold.
Oh, this sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
All right.
What happened at the Lamb Inn?
2 sisters,
Okay.
Molly and Dobby Giles, daughters of the innkeeper,
Okay.
reported hearing scratching and rapping noises,
Whoa, wow.
furniture moving on its own,
Right.
and even unexplained bite marks.
Hold on, so this wasn't a corpse rising from the grave,
It was more like a poltergeist situation.
but with bite marks.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a case that straddles the line
Yeah.
between ghost stories and vampire lore.
Right.
The bite marks, witnessed by multiple people,
Wow.
were accompanied by saliva,
Oh my God.
like something was physically attacking them.
That's seriously creepy.
Well,
What did they think was causing it?
there were claims of witchcraft, possibly a curse placed on the family.
Wow.
Things escalated when the girl's father, Richard Giles, died suddenly in a mysterious accident.
So was this a vengeful spirit,
Right.
a witch's curse,
Yeah.
or something else entirely?
It's hard to say for sure, but the family eventually consulted a white witch
Okay.
who performed rituals
Right.
that supposedly ended the disturbances.
It's a reminder that the line between ghost stories and vampire lore can get pretty blurry,
Right.
but it's also a reminder that these occurrences weren't always attributed to undead creatures.
Right.
Sometimes there were other forces at play, other explanations people turned to in those times.
And sometimes those forces could be both widespread and terrifying.
Okay.
Let's travel to 18th century Romania,
All right.
to the Timsvar region.
Okay.
This area experienced what some called a vampire epidemic.
A vampire epidemic.
Yeah.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, villages were plagued
Okay.
by mysterious deaths, unexplained illnesses, and nightmares of shadowy figures.
Oh, my goodness.
The Austrian authorities.
So it wasn't just villagers whispering about vampires.
Right.
We have the government stepping in
Yeah.
to try and get to the bottom of it all.
Again, demonstrating how seriously they were taking these matters.
Yeah.
Launched formal investigations.
Right.
They weren't taking any chances.
So what did they find?
Exhumed bodies
Okay.
were discovered uncorrupted,
Wow.
with blood at the mouth or under the nails.
Wow.
These were seen as clear signs of vampirism.
Right.
And how did they respond?
Yeah.
They resorted to the traditional methods of staking and burning the corpses.
And according to villagers, these actions stopped the deaths.
Right.
This, of course, only reinforced the belief
Yeah.
that they had been dealing with something truly supernatural.
It's fascinating and, frankly, a little frightening.
Yeah.
How consistent these reports are across regions and time periods.
Right. The same themes, the same fears, the same desperate attempts to stop these creatures.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder if there was something more to these stories than just a misunderstanding of disease or natural phenomena.
Right. It makes you wonder if people were genuinely encountering something that we, with our modern scientific understanding, still can't fully explain.
Okay, so we've explored the darker side of vampire lore in Europe, from ancient myths to documented cases investigated by officials.
Yeah.
But there's another aspect to this story.
Right.
One that takes us from the realm of folklore into the world of literature.
That's right.
Okay.
We need to talk about the literary vampire and how one novel in particular transformed the vampire myth forever.
You're talking about Dracula, of course.
That's the book that gave us the iconic image of the Cape Count lurking in the shadows, the refined, almost seductive vampire.
Right.
It's a far cry from the decaying corpses we've been discussing.
Bram Stoker's Dracula, published in 1897.
Okay.
Drew inspiration from Eastern European folklore, historical accounts, and even earlier vampire novels.
Okay.
But it also did something remarkable.
Oh, what's that?
It modernized the vampire, transforming him from a grotesque corpse into a figure of elegance, intelligence, and, dare I say, allure.
It's true. Dracula isn't just a monster.
No.
He's a sophisticated predator, blending into society while carrying out his dark agenda. He's a symbol of hidden power and danger that resonates even today.
And that's what makes Dracula so compelling. It taps into deeper anxieties about power, control, and the hidden forces
that might be lurking beneath the surface of our seemingly civilized world. But here's something that many people don't realize.
Oh, okay.
There's a fascinating connection between Dracula and Freemasonry.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula, was a Freemason?
He was.
Wow.
And so was John William Polidori, the author of The Vampire. One of the earliest modern vampire tales in English.
So, okay. So last time we were talking about this concept of like real vampires, individuals who might be part of a hidden tradition seeking immortality and power through occult means. We even touched on the possibility that these real vampires could still be among us. Now I'm ready to hear more about how all of this connects to the vampire myth.
Well, remember how we discussed the symbolism of the Ouroboros?
Yes. The
serpent or dragon devouring its own tail?
It's a striking image. That's for sure. But how does it relate to vampires?
The Ouroboros represents the endless cycle of life and death. The alchemist's pursuit of immortality. It's about breaking free from those limitations, achieving a state of eternal existence.
You're right.
Sound familiar?
It's like the eternally youthful vampires in literature. Figures like Dracula and Carmilla. They aren't just figments of imagination, but reflections of this ancient desire. This quest to cheat death and live forever.
Exactly. And when we look at historical figures like Elizabeth Bathory and Saint Germain, who sought to prolong their lives through alchemy and other esoteric practices, we see real-world examples of this very pursuit. They might not have been vampires in the literal sense, but their goals and methods align with the core themes of the vampire myth.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. But what about the bite? That quintessential vampire act of drawing blood from their victims. How does that fit into the real vampire concept?
That's a great question. Some theorists suggest that the bite could symbolize the recruitment of new initiates into this hidden order.
Like
the transfer of blood might represent a passing down of knowledge, a sharing of power, or even a symbolic act of transformation.
That's a fascinating interpretation. It adds a whole new layer of meaning to the vampire myth.
The vampire myth,
And what about the aversion to sunlight? Is there a symbolic interpretation for that as well?
Many believe that the aversion to sunlight might symbolize the hidden nature of their practices.
Right.
The need to operate in secrecy, away from the prying eyes of the uninitiated.
It's like a secret society.
Right. Within a secret society.
Exactly.
Okay, so if these real vampires are out there, operating in the shadows, how might we recognize them? What signs should we be looking for?
Well, remember our discussion about the bloodline connections between Vlad the Impaler and modern-day royalty and celebrities?
Yes. It was mind-blowing to think that even King Charles III has acknowledged his descent from Vlad the Impaler.
Right.
And those rumors about Johnny Depp and Robert Pattinson possibly having distant ties as well.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are these bloodline connections purely coincidental? Or do they hint at the persistence of the dragon's blood? The potential for these ancient traditions to endure in subtle, perhaps even subconscious ways.
So you're saying that these modern-day figures, with their fame, wealth, and influence,
could be unknowingly carrying on the legacy of these ancient occult traditions.
It's a possibility.
Wow.
Think about it. The vampire myth has permeated popular culture.
Right.
Particularly in movies and TV shows.
Right.
We see themes of life force extraction, manipulation of energy, and the pursuit of immortality.
Right.
Even in family-friendly entertainment.
You're right. It's everywhere. From Monsters, Inc., where fear is used as a source of power, to the Dark Crystal, which features creatures that extract life essence from others, to Hocus Pocus, where witches seek immortality through the life force of children.
These recurring themes might reflect a subconscious fascination with these concepts.
Right.
A subtle introduction of these ideas to a wider audience.
Okay.
It's almost like a form of subliminal programming.
Right.
Planting seeds in the collective unconscious.
So you're saying that these seemingly harmless movies and TV shows could subtly conditioning us to accept these concepts, making us more susceptible to the influence of these real vampires.
It's a thought-provoking idea, isn't it?
It really is.
Remember, we're not talking about shadowy figures lurking in castles, waiting to drain our blood. This is about a more subtle form of influence. A manipulation of power and resources that operates beneath the surface of our everyday lives.
This is all so mind-blowing.
I know. It's like
we're living in a real-life conspiracy thriller.
Right.
But if these real vampires are so good at hiding in plain sight, how can we ever hope to expose them?
That's where knowledge comes in.
Okay.
By understanding the history, the symbolism, and the deeper meaning behind the vampire myth.
Yeah.
We can start to see the patterns, recognize the signs, and perhaps even begin to understand their motives.
So what you're saying is the more we know about the past, the better equipped we are to navigate the present and the future.
We need to be aware of the forces that operate in the shadows, the individuals and groups who seek to control and manipulate those who might be driven by the same dark desires as the vampires of legend.
Okay, this has been an incredible deep dive so far.
It has.
We've journeyed from ancient Mesopotamia to modern-day Hollywood, exploring folklore, history, and even the world of secret societies. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of the vampire myth and its potential implications for our world.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand about the past, the better prepared we are for whatever the future might hold.
So, are we ready for the final piece of the puzzle?
What's the ultimate truth about these real vampires? So last time we were discussing the possibility that these real vampires, you know, those who practice occult traditions and seek immortality and power, could still be among us, hidden in plain sight. Perhaps even influencing our world in ways we don't fully understand. This is all pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It is,
So tell me, are we talking about like a full-blown...
Whoa.
Not necessarily a conspiracy in the traditional sense. You know, it's not about shadowy cabals meeting in secret and plotting to take over the world. It's more about a lineage of knowledge passed down through generations, hidden within esoteric orders and secret societies. These individuals might not identify as vampires in the literal sense, but their practices and goals align with those core themes we've been talking about. Manipulating light source, seeking immortality, and possessing an insatiable hunger for power.
Okay, so it's more about like a hidden tradition than a coordinated conspiracy. But how do we connect all the dots? We've explored ancient myths, historical accounts, even modern-day pop culture. What's the final piece of this puzzle? What does it all mean?
The real vampire isn't a creature of folklore or a literary invention. It's a concept rooted in a hidden tradition of elite occultists. Individuals throughout history have practiced corrupted forms of blood magic, seeking to extend their lives and gain power through unnatural means.
So we're talking about real people with real power and influence who might be using these occult practices for their own gain.
It's like something straight out of a Dan Brown novel.
It really is. But if they're so good at hiding in plain sight, how can we ever hope to recognize them?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It is.
They operate in the shadows. Their motives obscured. Their actions often disguised as something else entirely. But that's why it's so important to understand the deeper meaning behind the vampire myth. By recognizing the patterns, the symbolism, and the historical context, we can start to see through the veil of secrecy and understand their true nature.
So it's all about knowledge. The more we know about the past, the better equipped we are to navigate the present.
Exactly.
Where do we even begin? This all feels so vast and complex.
Start by looking for those recurring themes we've discussed. Blood, life force, immortality, and the manipulation of power. Pay attention to symbols like the Ouroboros and the dragon. And keep an eye out for individuals or groups with a fascination for the occult and a desire for control. You might be surprised by what you uncover.
This has been a truly eye-opening deep dive.
It has, hasn't it?
We've journeyed from ancient Mesopotamia to modern-day Hollywood, exploring folklore, history, and even the world of secret societies. I feel like I've gained like a whole new understanding of the vampire myth and its potential implications for our world.
It's fascinating stuff.
It really is.
And remember, knowledge is power.
Yes.
The more we understand about the past, the better prepared we are for whatever the future might hold.
So keep your eyes open, stay curious, and never stop questioning.
That's right.
You never know what lurks in the shadows.
Exactly.
And until next time, keep diving deep.